Everyone wants success, but very few command it. Why? Because success is not given to those who dream vaguely, but to those who master their daily habits. Most people think success is about big decisions, sudden breakthroughs, or once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. The truth is sharper. Success is commanded, not requested, and the weapon you use is habit. Picture two lives. The first person has ambition, ideas, and good intentions. Yet his days are scattered, scrolling, drifting, delaying. He starts projects but never finishes. He waits for motivation before moving. A year passes, then 5, and nothing has changed. His dreams stay locked in his head. The second person may not be more talented, but he builds small, relentless habits. He rises early, sets priorities, takes disciplined action every day. At first, the progress is invisible. But months later, years later, the compound effect explodes. His life stands as proof that habits are the architecture of destiny. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Good habits are the key to all success. Bad habits are the unlocked door to failure." This is the contrast. One person is chained by bad habits, the other is lifted by good ones. Which path are you walking? This video will reveal why habits decide your fate, why discipline beats motivation, and how you can master habits to command success in every area of life. You will see the hidden mechanism behind repeated action, and you will walk away with a system to reshape your days, your mind, and ultimately your destiny. So stay with me. Because if you ignore your habits, they will quietly destroy your potential. But if you master them, you won't just chase success, you will command it. Habits decide everything, yet most people live unaware of the silent cost of their daily routines. Success rarely collapses overnight, and failure rarely arrives in one dramatic moment. Both are built, brick, by the habits you repeat when no one is watching. Think about the small decisions you made today. Did you reach for your phone before you reached for your goals? Did you snooze the alarm instead of rising with purpose? Did you eat whatever was convenient instead of what gave you energy? Did you promise yourself you would start tomorrow but ended up wasting another evening? Each choice seems minor, almost invisible. But compounded over months and years, they create the architecture of your life. The tragedy of bad habits is that they feel harmless in the moment. Skipping one workout doesn't ruin your health. Watching 1 hour of television doesn't destroy your career. Procrastinating on one task doesn't bankrupt your business. But repetition makes them fatal. Like drops of water cutting stone, bad habits carve a canyon of regret. And when you finally wake up to see the damage, it is too late to undo years of drift. Napoleon Hill studied thousands of men and women and found that the majority lived as prisoners of habits they never questioned. They allowed fear to breed procrastination, procrastination to harden into routine, and routine to dictate their destiny. Ask yourself, are you truly making choices, or are your habits making them for you? Here is the painful contrast. Two people stand at the same starting line, both with ambition, both with dreams. The first delays, "I'll start tomorrow, I'll do it when I feel ready, I'll wait for the perfect time." Days slip into weeks, weeks into months, and his dream remains untouched. The second acts, not perfectly, not with total confidence, but with daily consistency. While the drifter hesitates, the doer accumulates 100 small actions. A year later, the gap is massive. One has results, confidence, and momentum. The other has excuses, frustration, and regret. Picture it 5 years later. The drifter tells stories of what he could have been if only he had started. The doer has built skills, relationships, and opportunities that compound like interest. 10 years later, the drifter feels trapped, convinced that success is for the lucky few. The doer stands as proof that success was never about luck, it was about habits repeated daily. And what is the ultimate price? Regret. The regret of knowing you had the chance to live with purpose but settled for patterns that numbed you. The regret of realizing that while others built empires with steady daily habits, you built nothing but excuses. Regret is heavier than failure, because failure can be redeemed, but wasted years cannot be recovered. This is the pain you must confront. If you do not master your habits, they will master you. Every drift, every delay, every small compromise accumulates into a destiny you did not choose. And when you finally look back, you will realize success was never stolen from you, it was surrendered, one habit at a time. Napoleon Hill left us a timeless warning: good habits are the key to all success. Bad habits are the unlocked door to failure. This principle is as true today as when Hill first wrote it. Habits are not neutral, they are forces shaping your destiny every single day. Either they build the foundation of greatness, or they silently lead you toward decline. Hill observed in Think and Grow Rich that successful people are not necessarily the smartest, strongest, or luckiest. What separates them is their ability to form habits that align with their goals. They discipline themselves to think positively, to decide quickly, to persist through obstacles. These habits form an invisible code that governs their success. By contrast, the unsuccessful form habits of delay, excuses, negativity, and doubt. These two become automatic, except they lead to mediocrity and regret. The principle is clear: your habits decide for you long before you consciously choose. If you have the habit of persistence, you will keep moving when fear strikes. If you have the habit of clarity, you will make decisions when others hesitate. If you have the habit of discipline, you will act daily, whether you feel like it or not. Habits make success inevitable, just as bad habits make failure unavoidable. Think of habits as the tracks on which your life runs. A train cannot leave its tracks. If your habits are aligned with growth, your train moves steadily toward achievement. If your habits are careless, your train speeds toward a crash. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted that mastering habits is not optional, it is the foundation of destiny. Hill also emphasized the law of cosmic habit force, the unseen power that solidifies repeated actions into permanent patterns. When you repeat an action often enough, the universe itself seems to support it. Momentum builds, and what was once effort becomes automatic. This is both a blessing and a curse. If your actions are constructive, cosmic habit force will make them effortless. If your actions are destructive, it will lock you into decline. In his lesser-known work Outwitting the Devil, Hill painted an even clearer picture. He described the drifter, a person ruled by unexamined habits, and the non-drifter, someone who deliberately creates habits that serve his purpose. The devil, in Hill's allegory, confessed that he controls people primarily through habit, teaching them to procrastinate, to waste time, to surrender decisions. The non-drifter, by contrast, breaks free by installing habits that support clarity, focus, and courage. In other words, success and failure are not accidents, they are the direct offspring of habit. Hill's interviews with figures like Andrew Carnegie reinforced this truth. Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of his time, attributed his fortune not to luck but to the habit of surrounding himself with capable minds and taking immediate action on clear decisions. That, too, was habit, a disciplined way of thinking and acting repeated until it became identity. So here is the command: do not underestimate the small things you repeat daily. They are not small. They are the seeds of your future. Hill's principle demands that you take ownership of your habits now, before they harden into chains. Because once a habit is formed, it either serves you or enslaves you. The good news is this: you have the power to choose. You can replace drifting with discipline, excuses with action, fear with courage. You can align your habits with your goals, and in doing so, you align your destiny with success. And if you stay long enough on this path, what begins as effort becomes natural, what feels heavy becomes light, and what once looked impossible becomes inevitable. That is the true promise of Napoleon Hill's principle. If habits truly decide destiny, then the real question is, which habits are steering your life right now? This brings us to the sharp divide Napoleon Hill uncovered: the difference between the drifter and the disciplined. The drifter is carried by habits he never chose. He wakes up without direction, checks his phone, reacts to whatever the world throws at him. His days blend together, each one shaped by convenience, distraction, and fear. He tells himself he will change when things settle, but life never settles. Each passing week, his drifting habits grow stronger until they become his identity. The disciplined person lives by a different code. He still feels fear, still faces distractions, but he chooses habits deliberately. He wakes with intention, sets priorities, and protects his focus. His habits are designed, not inherited. And while his progress may seem invisible at first, it compounds quietly until one day the gap between him and the drifter is undeniable. Picture them side by side. The drifter spends his nights scrolling, while the disciplined spends his nights learning. The drifter avoids hard choices, while the disciplined decides quickly and acts. The drifter promises tomorrow, the disciplined delivers today. Over a year, the difference looks small. Over a decade, the difference becomes destiny. Napoleon Hill described drifting as the greatest enemy of success. The drifter thinks he is making choices, but in truth his habits are making them for him. He follows the path of least resistance, mistaking comfort for safety. Yet comfort is the slow poison of ambition. The disciplined, however, builds habits that demand discomfort, waking earlier, persisting longer, focusing deeper. And through those habits, he commands his future instead of surrendering it. The wrong path is not simply failing. Failure teaches, failure refines. The wrong path is drifting, repeating weak habits so often that they silently erase the possibility of success. And the most dangerous part? The drifter rarely notices until it is too late. This is why Hill's principle matters so much. You cannot afford to drift. Every habit you allow to take root is either building your future or burying it. Which side are you on? If drifting is the wrong path, then what exactly does the right path look like? It is not luck. It is not a sudden breakthrough. It is a mechanism, an invisible machine built from your habits. Napoleon Hill called it the law of cause and effect applied to human behavior. The disciplined understand this, and they treat their habits like gears in a system that can be engineered. Think of your life as a massive engine. Each habit is a gear, turning either toward progress or toward decline. Wake up early, gear moves forward. Delay decisions, gear grinds backward. Protect your focus, gear locks momentum. Waste time, gear slips into reverse. The machine doesn't care about your intentions, it only responds to what you repeat. Here's the chain reaction. A decision sparks a habit. A habit repeated creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence attracts greater opportunities. Opportunities compound into success. But break the first link, and nothing happens. Fail to decide, and no habit forms. Fail to repeat, and momentum dies. This is why Hill warned that drifting is so destructive, it disrupts the entire mechanism before it can generate results. Picture a farmer with 2 fields. In the first, he plants seeds daily, waters them, protects them. At first, nothing shows. Weeks pass, still no change. But eventually, sprouts break through the soil, then grow into a harvest. In the second field, he plants nothing. The land looks the same at first, but slowly weeds take over, choking the soil. Both fields obeyed the same law: whatever you repeat, multiplies. Habits are those seeds, and the mechanism ensures they either produce abundance or regret. But there is a deeper layer. Habits do not just create outcomes, they create identity. Every action you repeat whispers something to your subconscious: this is who I am. One push-up says, I am disciplined. 1 hour wasted says, I am careless. Identity then fuels future choices, because people naturally act in alignment with who they believe they are. Thus the mechanism expands. Habit, identity, destiny. And if you stay on that path long enough, identity becomes legacy. Your repeated actions shape how others remember you, what you leave behind, and how your influence endures after you are gone. Hill often spoke of definiteness of purpose, the idea that every habit must be linked to a clear chief aim. Without that aim, even good habits scatter energy. With it, habits transform into a legacy that outlives the individual. Another way to see it, imagine a river. Left unchecked, it floods, wanders, and destroys. But when channeled, it turns turbines, generates electricity, and lights entire cities. Your energy is the river. Discipline is the channel. Fear and drift are nothing more than unchanneled waters consuming themselves. Once directed, the same energy that once felt overwhelming becomes unstoppable power. So here is the full mechanism: decide, act, repeat, habit, identity, destiny, legacy. Break the chain early, and you drift. Lock it together, and success becomes inevitable, not optional. That is why discipline is not punishment. It is liberation. It is not about restriction, it is about direction. The disciplined are not chained, they are freed from the prison of hesitation, because their habits carry them where drifting minds only wish to go. If habits are the mechanism that commands success, then the next question is obvious: how do you take control of that mechanism in your own life? Napoleon Hill warned that drifting habits will form whether you choose them or not. The only way forward is to design your habits intentionally. Here are 5 steps to master habits and put yourself in command. Step 1. Identify the hidden habit chains. Before you can change, you must see clearly. Spend 3 days tracking your routine in brutal detail. Write down everything: when you wake, what you eat, how you spend each hour. Do not judge, just observe. You will quickly see patterns you never noticed. The late night scrolling. The wasted breaks. The excuses that disguise themselves as rest. These are the chains of failure. Awareness is the first step to breaking them. Step 2. Replace, don't erase. Hill taught that nature abhors a vacuum. You cannot simply remove a bad habit, you must replace it with a constructive one. If you scroll at night, replace it with reading 10 pages. If you procrastinate on a task, replace it with a 2-minute action rule. If you waste mornings, replace them with exercise or writing. The old gear must be swapped for a new one, otherwise, the machine grinds to a halt. Step 3. Anchor small wins to a larger goal. Habits gain power when they serve a vision. Ask, how does this small act connect to my big destiny? That one push-up is not just exercise, it is the seed of discipline. That one page is not just learning, it is your education compounding. That one call is not just business, it is opportunity expanding. By connecting small habits to a higher purpose, you transform them from chores into building blocks of success. Step 4. Use irreversible triggers. Fear thrives when retreat is possible. Destroy retreat. Tell a friend your deadline. Announce your goal publicly. Set up automatic drafts into savings. Sign a contract. These irreversible actions lock you into a path where your habits must follow. Hill often emphasized burning bridges to build courage. When going back is no longer an option, forward is the only direction. Step 5. Reward consistency, not perfection. Most people quit because they expect instant results. But habits grow like trees, they are invisible at first. The victory is not in the outcome but in the repetition. Each day you follow through, celebrate. Mark it on a calendar, write it in a journal, declare it aloud. By rewarding consistency, you program your mind to see discipline as success itself. The results will come, but only if you stay in the process long enough to see the compound effect unfold. Put these 5 steps into motion and you build momentum. Momentum becomes identity. And once identity shifts, once you see yourself as someone who acts with discipline, fear loses its grip. You no longer need motivation to move, your habits carry you forward. This is how habits command success, not through one giant leap, but through 1,000 small, deliberate steps repeated daily until greatness becomes inevitable. Building habits is powerful, but let's be honest, resistance always shows up. The moment you decide to change, life seems to throw distractions, temptations, and failures in your path. Napoleon Hill warned that resistance is proof you are on the right track. It is the test every disciplined person must pass. The question is not whether resistance will appear, but how you will counter it. Temptation, the comfort trap. Comfort feels harmless, but it is the enemy of growth. You tell yourself, just one more episode, one more scroll, one more snack. Each one more builds into a chain that pulls you back to mediocrity. The counter? Choose discomfort daily. Start with something small, cold showers, an extra set of push-ups, tackling the hardest task first. By training yourself to embrace discomfort, you weaken temptation's power and strengthen discipline. Distraction, the noise of the world. The world is designed to steal your attention. Notifications, endless feeds, and the illusion of busyness make you feel productive while you drift further from your goals. Distraction is fear in disguise, it keeps you from facing important decisions. The counter? Ruthless focus. Turn off alerts, set strict work blocks, and protect your time as if it were gold. Because it is. When you command your focus, you command your results. Failure, the doubt multiplier. Every time you slip, fear seizes the moment. See? You failed. Why even try? This is fear's sharpest blade, using your mistakes as evidence against you. But failure is not a verdict, it is feedback. The counter? Reframe instantly. Write down what the mistake taught you and take immediate corrective action. Each failure then becomes a stepping stone instead of a wall. The disciplined don't fear failure, they harvest it. Delay, the subtle assassin. Resistance rarely tells you stop. It whispers, later. Later feels safe, but it is the graveyard of dreams. Every delayed habit plants weeds in the field of success. The counter? Immediate action. Apply the 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. For larger tasks, commit to just 5 minutes of effort. Often, starting breaks delays grip, and momentum carries you forward. A story of resistance. Imagine a young entrepreneur named Daniel. He sets a clear habit goal: write one pitch email to investors every morning before checking his phone. For the first week, he succeeds. By the second week, resistance shows up. One morning, he thinks, let me just scroll for a few minutes, I'll write the email after. An hour disappears. The next day, failure whispers, you missed yesterday, maybe you aren't disciplined enough for this. Daniel almost gives up. But then he applies Hill's principles. Instead of hiding from the mistake, he reframes it. He writes in his notebook, lesson: morning distraction kills momentum. Counter: phone stays in another room until the pitch is sent. He acts immediately. The next morning, he resists the urge to check his phone, writes the email in 10 minutes, and celebrates the win by marking it on his calendar. Within weeks, this counter move becomes a habit itself. Distraction no longer controls him, he controls it. This story shows the truth: resistance is not proof you're weak. It's proof you are building strength. The more resistance pushes, the closer you are to transformation. Napoleon Hill observed that resistance grows strongest right before breakthrough. The day you feel most tempted to quit is often the day you are closest to progress. Recognize this as a signal, not a setback. When resistance screams, it means you are striking fear at its core. So train your reflex: the moment temptation, distraction, failure, or delay appears, don't retreat. Act. Smile at the resistance, because it proves you are building the habits that command success. Push forward, and you will discover what Hill promised: resistance is never permanent, it crumbles under consistent action. Resistance can be beaten, but only if you replace vague intentions with a concrete plan. Napoleon Hill often emphasized that a dream without a definite plan is just a wish. To command success, you must transform the idea of good habits into a daily system. Here is a 30-day plan divided into 4 weeks, each week layering discipline until habits begin to hardwire into your identity. Week 1, Awareness and Audit. You cannot change what you refuse to measure. For the first 7 days, track every habit honestly. Write down when you wake, how you spend your hours, what you eat, how you react to fear. Do not try to change anything yet, just observe. At the end of the week, you will have a brutal but clear picture of your reality. Awareness strips away excuses and shows you exactly which habits are steering you toward failure. Day 1 to 3, carry a notebook. Write down each action in real time. No edits, no judgments. Day 4 to 5, review your notes. Circle the repeated actions that waste time or weaken discipline. Day 6 to 7, rank your top 3 negative habits and your top 3 positive ones. This list becomes the foundation of change. Week 2, small replacements. In the second week, begin replacing weak habits with stronger ones. This is not about overhauling your entire life in a day, it is about switching gears in the mechanism. If you scroll at night, replace 10 minutes with reading. If you procrastinate, replace delay with a 2-minute action. If you waste mornings, replace them with exercise or journaling. Each small replacement becomes proof you can design your life instead of drifting. Day 8 to 10, pick one habit from your negative list. Replace it with a constructive alternative. Track it daily. Day 11 to 13, add a second replacement habit. Keep both alive together. Day 14, reflect in writing, notice how even 2 small shifts already create momentum. Week 3, irreversible commitments. Now it's time to raise the stakes. Each day this week, make one choice that locks you into action. Announce a deadline publicly. Sign up for a class. Transfer money into an investment. Tell a friend your goal. These irreversible steps strip away the option of retreat, forcing your habits to align with your decision. As Hill wrote, burning your bridges is often the fastest way to build courage. Day 15 to 17, announce your first small goal online or to a friend. Day 18 to 19, commit financially, sign up, invest, or pay for something that forces follow-through. Day 20 to 21, create accountability, schedule check-ins with a partner or mentor. Week 4, momentum and identity. By the 4th week, you begin integrating all steps. Start your day with the hardest task, cut off distractions, anchor your habits to your larger goals, and track your progress nightly. Most importantly, begin to identify as the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves. Success at this stage is no longer about single actions, it is about who you are becoming. Habits shape identity, and identity sustains habits. Day 22 to 24, begin your mornings with the hardest task. No negotiation. Day 25 to 26, eliminate one distraction completely, social media during work, or TV at night. Day 27 to 28, anchor every habit to your definite chief aim, speak it aloud as you act. Day 29 to 30, review your month. Write a summary, which habits stuck, which resisted, and how your identity shifted. Keep this as proof of transformation. At the end of 30 days, you will see change, but more importantly, you will feel it. Decisions will come faster. Fear will feel smaller. Action will flow more naturally. Hill's principle becomes visible in your own life. Habits, once mastered, make success inevitable. Remember, 30 days is not the finish line, it is the foundation. The purpose of this plan is to give you proof that you can rewire your patterns. Once you see that proof, you must continue. Because momentum, once built, is your greatest ally in commanding success. Success is not an accident of fate but the precise outcome of habits designed, rehearsed, and repeated until they become an internal engine that runs without permission. When you wake with intention instead of drift, select the hardest task before any other voice can bargain with you, script your first 90 minutes, guard your attention from the carnival of notifications, decide small matters in under 2 minutes, and tie every movement to a definite chief aim. You lay steel rails beneath a Heavy train and Napoleon Hill's law of cause and effect begins to compound in your favor, turning minutes into momentum, momentum into confidence, confidence into opportunity, and opportunity into the kind of results that seem to outsiders like luck but are in truth the visible surface of invisible disciplines. What you repeat you become, what you schedule you ship, and what you tolerate in private quietly writes the public story of your life. Every choice you make either strengthens or weakens a pattern, and patterns do not remain neutral because repetition invites what Hill called cosmic habit force, the unseen gravity that pulls you toward whatever you practice. If you practice clarity, decisive commitment, and the bias for action, fear is starved of time and oxygen and must withdraw. But if you practice hesitation, comforting rationalizations, and scattered effort, fear multiplies in the empty spaces of your day, whispers you into delay, and eventually begins making your choices for you while you watch. The tragedy is that small lapses look harmless in isolation, yet the bill arrives with compound interest in the form of lost opportunities, eroded self-trust, and an identity that no longer believes its own promises. So the real question is not whether you have habits but whether your habits have you. Because the person who repeats drift becomes a drifter while the person who repeats discipline becomes reliable to themselves, and reliability to oneself is the rarest competitive advantage in a noisy world. Take the 30-day plan you now possess and run it through the 5-step loop of awareness, replacement, goal anchoring, irreversible triggers, and celebrating consistency while meeting resistance with deliberate discomfort, ruthless focus, immediate reframing, and action now rather than later. Begin by auditing your days so thoroughly that blind spots have nowhere to hide. Then swap each week routine for a constructive alternative that can be performed in 2 minutes or less to start. Connect those small moves to a single written objective that you read aloud morning and night. Create points of no return by telling a friend your deadlines, enrolling in commitments, or automating deposits that future you would never cancel, and reward follow through daily with visible marks on a calendar so your brain learns to associate effort with victory. In week 2 and 3, push farther by choosing the first hard task at dawn, cutting off notifications during deep work blocks, and publishing imperfect output on a schedule that scares you just enough to grow. Because quality emerges from quantity and courage emerges from exposure. When failure bites, capture the lesson in a notebook within 60 seconds and translate it into the next tiny action so that mistakes become fuel instead of friction. And when delay whispers later, move for 5 minutes exactly and let momentum carry you the rest of the way. As you loop through these behaviors day after day, the flywheel of habit gains mass, your decisions arrive faster than fear can sprout, and your identity shifts from someone who hopes to act into someone who acts by default, which is the quiet threshold where success stops needing to be chased because it begins to be commanded by the person you are becoming. I affirm that I am no longer a prisoner of drifting habits, because each day I choose deliberately and each choice creates momentum that fear cannot stop. I affirm that discipline is my compass, that every repeated action strengthens my identity, and that what I practice in private becomes the success I command in public. I affirm that small habits are not small, that each decision is a seed of destiny, and that by planting them daily I guarantee a harvest of wealth, confidence, and freedom. I affirm that I am the master of my habits, the architect of my days, and the commander of my success, and from this moment forward, every action I take confirms the life I have chosen. You've repeated the affirmation, you've felt the power of declaring mastery over your habits, now it's your turn to step into action. In the comments, write down one habit you will commit to mastering for the next 30 days. Make it specific. Is it waking at a set hour, writing 1 page daily, exercising before work, or cutting off distractions at night? Declare it publicly, because once you share it, you turn intention into accountability. If this message has given you clarity, hit the like button so it spreads to others who need it too. Subscribe to this channel so you don't drift back into old patterns. Stay connected to Napoleon Hill's wisdom and to a community of disciplined minds. And remember, your comment is not just text, it is the first brick of your new foundation. Build it today. You now understand that habits are the gears that command success. But even with strong habits, one force still tries to paralyze you at every step: fear. What if instead of running from fear, you could turn it into energy? What if every anxious thought became fuel for discipline, clarity, and unstoppable drive? That is the next stage of Napoleon Hill's wisdom. In the next episode, Turn Fear into Fuel for Growth, Napoleon Hill, you will learn how to transform the very thing that once froze you into the power that pushes you forward. We will break down why fear appears, how to reframe it instantly, and the exact methods to use its energy to accelerate growth rather than stall it. So make sure you are subscribed now, because the journey does not stop here. Mastering habits gives you the structure, but mastering fear gives you the fire. And when structure and fire meet, success cannot resist you.